Would you like to be more prone to doing things, the things that you want to do? Well, then stick around for this second edition of the Unscripted show.
Luke's unscripted show that he does as often as he can.
Or LUSTHDAOAHC.
Best of Self-Improvement 3 Years Goals.
And this goals show is going to be broken up into two parts, and it's going to be the tactics of goals, the good tactics of getting goals accomplished, and the psychology that you can use to make the goals happen. And goals are important to everyone because they're all that your life is made up of, are actions and desires. You want to get the things that you want, and that requires actions. So getting better at goals is good for everybody. So hopefully this show is going to have something that anybody can use to get better at life itself. Starting with clarity. This is an idea that's going to come from multiple books. Your Best Year Ever, High Performance Habits, and 9 Things Successful People Do Differently, right? You're going to figure out exactly what goals you want to set. Ask yourself questions. What do I want? What can I accomplish? At this stage of my life, what is something simple that I can aim myself at and move towards? And you figure out the step goals that it's going to take to get to that point. It's important to be specific and keep it simple and write it down and put those goals somewhere. They have to be written down or else they don't really exist yet. And put them somewhere prominent in a space that you spend some good time in, that you generally do most of your focusing in. Because we're going to want to have it associated, like from the last show, you're going to want to have it associated with the good stuff that you produce and in the good environment that you have. After you've got your goal clarified and written out, you're going to go map it out. You've already done this by mapping out what you want, but now you're going to actually map out what specific things it's going to require to get there. And you schedule. You break it all down. In the 12-week year, they call this periodization. And in their specific method, they break it down into big chunks, and then they take the big chunks and they break that into smaller chunks. And then the smaller chunks, they break those into day-specific simplified goals to actually get accomplished. Okay. And so then you lay out your schedule for a reasonable amount of time, probably not a whole year, especially if you're not so good at accomplishing goals right yet. Lay it out for maybe 2 weeks of the things that you can do on the days that you're planning on getting things done, your specific and your simple goals. This idea is also featured in Your Best Year Ever by Michael Hyatt, and everybody knows him. So that works. It works. And then you make your measurements of the things that you got done, right? If you plan out, let's say you get 80% of the things done you had to do. You do 4 of the 5 throughout that 2-week span. Okay? So now you're going to have to re-clarify, right? Maybe you overestimated what you were going to be able to do. And so now when you plan it out next time, you adjust based on your new expectations for how you'll be able to accomplish the things that you're working on. A good example when doing these sort of goal-setting hypotheticals is always going to be weight loss, because that's something that's generally applicable to just about everybody, or at least they've had those types of goals in their life at one point or another. To put this into practice, what we're talking about using weight loss is we're going to, like in the beginning, clarify. Write it out. You've decided this is what you want, and now you're going to have to get specific and simple. Say you want to lose, ultimately you want to lose 460 pounds, right? And so you have your big goal you're aiming at, but now you have to make it simple and manageable and time specific so you can measure it. So call it 2 weeks. You want to lose 5 pounds, okay? And you figured out how you're going to do it. You give yourself a couple rules as good boundaries, then we're going to go into specific things you're going to do. But let's say how I would do it would be intermittent fasting, 12 to 7, that's when I eat, okay? And then a specific limit on carbohydrates, however much that would be. Those are 2 really simple rules that work pretty well for a lot of people. So they're proven. They're proven methods. That's also a pretty good idea, is to check out things that have been proven. Because usually the goals that you are going for, other people have already gone for. And there are forums and all sorts of things that you can look up and figure out what other people did that worked for them for the goals that you're trying to do. So in that particular example, it would be those couple of things. Intermittent fasting works really well, and low carbohydrates works really well generally for a lot of people who knows if it works for you, check with your doctor, etc. So you've gotten specific, 2 weeks, 5 pounds. That's what you want to lose on your eventual goal to losing 460 pounds. You're going to want to make sure that you measure your progress. For this particular example, you don't want to measure your weight too often because it fluctuates so much. So maybe pick 1 or 2 days a week. Let's just call it Sunday. So you measure your weight every Sunday. And now you're going to implement specific things you can do that you can schedule throughout the week that are going to relate to that goal. Working out is generally helpful. A diet plan is usually helpful. And you've sort of mapped out your diet already as 2 really easy rules. Really easy, simple rules. You don't have to think too much about it. If it's not between 12 and 7, you're not going to eat using the previous rules or the previous things we discussed in the last Unscripted show. You can do that by removing those things that would detract from your goal. So you're going to keep all the chips and the yucky stuff, all the carbohydrates, all the tempters. You keep those out of your environment so you can't be tempted, so you don't have to drain your willpower every time. That's a little quickie from the last show. But then the specific things you're going to do, like working out, you're going to do that, say, 2 times a week. Keep it simple, because you're just trying to lose 5 pounds, and your eventual goal is really far away. But you want to make the right steps and give yourself some confidence toward the goals that you're doing. Within your little periods that you've broken your little goals into, the 2 weeks for this example, if you get 80% of what you are trying to get accomplished done, then that is pretty good. That's going to be enough for you to continue your momentum and get things going. That's from the 12-week year. That's really all you need is 80%. 4 out of 5 of what you want to get accomplished. 8 out of 10. 25. No, that's not good. 20 out of 25. Now you've got clarity because you've been specific, you've been simple, you've broken it down, you've periodized it, you have your expectations for what you're going to get accomplished, and then you do what you set out to do. Let's say you get 80% of it right. You get to the end of your 2 weeks, you've lost 4 pounds instead of 5. That's 80%. That's good. You're going to re-clarify because your measurements, based on what you expected, weren't quite there. Every time you mark those periods with check marks, it says, I did those goals, you get a new confidence. And then you can set out to do more goals. That about wraps up the tactics. Now we're going to get into the psychology. Psychology. Now this is going to go back to what we were talking about right in the beginning, about how goals are pretty much what life is. Your desires and interests, and then moving toward them through action. And so you're going to be sculpting your actions toward your interests and desires. Recognizing this, it makes it a lot easier to psychologize properly what you're going for. The Practicing Mind by Thomas Sterner, Leap First by Seth Godin, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen R. Covey, everyone knows that one, and Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone. You're going to identify with the goal that you've set. So to make this another hypothetical, let's just say your ultimate goal is to be able to make a souffle. And let's just pretend, because I don't know anything about souffles, that a souffle is the top hardest thing that anyone can ever make, and you need lots of training and experience in order to make it. That may be the case. Or you could just, I don't know anything about it. That means you're going to have to go through lots of these iterations of these smaller goals, all the way up until you're a master and you can create a souffle. To take advantage of this psychological trick, identify. You are a cook. It becomes a part of your identity, a part of who you are, right? A cook is going to have posters of cook stuff, you know. A cook is going to wear a chef hat everywhere. This has become a part of who you are, and that's very helpful psychologically. Just for the previous example, if you're going to work on losing that 460 pounds, you call yourself, you are a health guru. That is part of who you are, your identity. Match an identity to the goal stream that you're aiming on, and then consider yourself that type of person. And that's very psychologically helpful. And this matches life and how you categorize yourself with the actions that you perform toward the interests and desires you have. And the next thing, you're going to want to persist. You have to maintain a sense of internal consistency. You have to build up a confidence in the fact that you are going to do the actions that align with the identity that you've given yourself. Become a professional. Schedule out this time and be consistent. Do the things that you have to do that align you with your identity and with the goals that you've set out to do. There's a quote in The War of Art that he takes from somebody. I always say Chuck Love, but I really don't think that that's right. Motivation is for amateurs. You're a professional. This is part of who you are. You do this. You persist. Those are going to be the psychological benefits towards your goals, but there are a couple psychological drawbacks. In the book, The Practicing Mind, he illustrates it this way. Say you're swimming, and you're swimming toward an island. While you're swimming, you're going to be keeping your head down. You're going to be swimming. Then you pick your head up and you check where the island is. And you go back down, you swim. Pick your head up, check where the island is. Go down, keep swimming, right? You do that over and over again. You're losing energy, and you're continually reinforcing the fact that you aren't enjoying the swimming. You really want to get to this place, and you're not really enjoying the swimming. Not encompassed in who you are as a swimmer. This is what you do. You're checking outside of the actions itself. If you have periods of measurement that you're using specifically to reorient yourself to your own capabilities, that's different. But checking in unscheduled times, let's just say for me, for example, if I had a subscriber goal that I wanted to meet, call it 5. Say I want to get to 5 subscribers. If I go on every day and say, oh, where am I at? 1. Okay. And then, oh, where am I at? Oh, grandma subscribed. That's 2. Then that's not going to work. That's going to continually disappoint me if it's just something that I randomly do to try and get hits of dopamine that don't succeed. Right? If you want to get your hits of accomplishment and dopamine that don't succeed, if you're swimming and you look up and see the tree and it doesn't look any closer because you keep looking up at it, then you're going to start feeling discouraged. And this ties in really well with the next idea too, which is to don't give yourself rewards for your little accomplishments, because it psychologizes it as you're doing something you don't want to do in order to get something that you want. Because if you set it up so that you have a little piece of candy, right? You really want that candy, then the candy is going to be your focus, not the work that you're doing. You're just going to you're going to try to plow through and just get this work done that you don't want to do. Get this cooking done where you're learning how to do a souffle or learning how to sharpen a knife as part of your small specific goals on the way toward learning your souffle. You're sharpening your knife and in the corner of your eye, you're like, I really want that piece of candy when I'm done with this knife sharpening. You're not going to really cement these whole ideas of identifying and persisting as it being a part of what you do. You're just going to be doing something that you try to get through in order to achieve or in order to get that reward. And so that's a little bit of a psychological hindrance. That's from Better Than Before, Gretchen Rubin's book. And I'd never heard that idea before. That's actually a really good idea. And a lot of these other books don't mention that. They sometimes do set it up to get rewards. It might be beneficial for accomplishing the goals, but it's not going to be beneficial for the ultimate purpose of why you are doing this, which is to be that type, to get those types of things done, and to improve on those platforms of development, as opposed to just being a robot in order to eat a little piece of candy. And that wraps up the psychology. So to recap it, you ask yourself the types of questions that will figure out what you want, what sort of thing you want to aim at. And then you break out what you want to aim at into specific goals, you schedule them out, you write them out, and you measure your progress at intervals, predetermined intervals, to see where you are and then readjust so that that flow is constantly changing, where you're aiming and how you're doing it. And then the psychology aspect is you're going to identify with whatever type that this big goal indicates. If it's a health guru because you want to lose 460 pounds, or if it's a cook or chef because you want to learn how to make a really complicated souffle. Then you're going to persist regularly to tell your psychology, to tell yourself that this is what you're doing, you're confident about what you're doing, and you're going to continue to do this, and you don't mess that up. And to keep from sort of messing up the psychology of it, you don't want to continually look for the hits of dopamine, to look for your accomplishments. When they come, you'll feel the real dopamine. You'll be excited about it. But looking for them wherever you can find them is going to detract from the psychology of the actions themselves, of what you're going for, to identify and to accomplish, as well as giving yourself rewards for the specific accomplishments you do, because that also detracts from what you are trying to set as the mode of being within your psychology. And that's about it. Time for a little bit of housekeeping. You might have noticed it's been a few weeks since we last put out a show. And this has a few reasons. Number one, I mentioned in a couple of videos, the previous two videos, I'm working on Maps of Meaning by Jordan Peterson, which is a technical, very difficult book that is very hard for my brain. I have a type of brain, the doctors I think said it was nodo-smarto, something like that, some sort of disease like that. And so it's really tricky for me to grasp all the concepts and then work them in. But I'm not going to use that as a total excuse. It's been way too many weeks for that to count. I also got a new girlfriend, so I blame her. A couple of other things that really shouldn't have taken away from what I was doing, so I can't use those. But mainly, I'm a bum. But we're back to work. What's really cool, Maddie and I got the new website up and working. Check that out if you have a chance. We worked pretty hard on that one. It's really cool. And we should be back. We should be down to work, getting it done. It's just Maps of Meaning is pretty difficult. I think that's going to have a few parts to it. I really enjoy the book. That's the thing, is it's really good, but it's just really dense and tricky. So Getting that done is going to be difficult, but we're working on it. We're going to get shows out. That's actually why I put out one of these unscripted shows, is because I was planning on having a new Maps of Meaning show out today, but it's not going to happen. I still have a lot of work to do on it. But I think that's all for housekeeping. I hope this was helpful to you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you with the next unscripted show. Bye.